The Carpenters. It is 11 o'clock. You're listening to 102.3 WHTL in Whitehall, Wisconsin. Wednesday means open house.
It's time for the open house on WHTL.
What are you, some kind of real estate agent?
You're joking, right? I don't joke about real estate.
With the Hanson Real Estate Group.
I never understood why people are so afraid to eat in an open house.
I know.
The open house starts right now.
And it does here on this Wednesday. This week I get to welcome Josh Baecker into the studio. Hello, Josh.
Hey, Mark, how are you doing?
I'm doing pretty decent. Not bad for Wednesday. Look at that. Outside, it's just gorgeous.
It doesn't get much better than this, does it?
No, this is absolutely beautiful weather, and it looks like it's going to be this way all through the weekend. Next chance of any rain, maybe just a 20% chance on Sunday. But this is ideal summer.
It is. Have to get a lot of stuff done this weekend.
Yeah, you can come to my house if you want. I don't know.
My list is long enough, so I wish you luck, though.
I tell you what, it never ends. It really doesn't. And, every year I think, I'm getting a little bit older. Maybe I should slow down and do less, but I don't. And, okay, that brings me to a question. And we're going to talk about a lot today. We got a lot to discuss. But, we're talking about working outside and getting stuff done around the house. How important is that curb appeal?
Oh, it's very important. That first impression is something it's hard to make up for if it's a bad one. So, and curb appeal is something a lot of people can do on their own. Just tidy up the yard, pick up sticks, rake leaves, just have some decent landscaping, plant some flowers. It's a simple thing that can make a big difference.
Yeah, it's you're right. It's that first impression. You only get one chance to make that first impression. And when you drive by and you look at a place, you go, "Oh, that's a nice looking. That's pretty." Or you go, it needs a lot of work. So yeah, I imagine that can make a big difference.
Yeah, and if you pull up and it just looks kind of run down on the outside, then you open the front door and everything's immaculate. Buyers don't know how to interpret that. It's just kind of odd.
Yeah, it is kind of odd. Why would one be so good and the other not good at all?
Yep.
Or the opposite.
That happens as well. So
there you go. Okay, well, today we're going to talk about a lot of different things. Well water, septic systems, what are they? Okay, let's start with septic systems. Now, as you and I were talking before we went on the air, I've never lived in a house that had a septic system. I've always lived in homes that had, city water, city sewer. There's a lot of different things that come into play when you're living out in the country and you've got a septic system opposed to city sewer and water.
Yep, and that's why I thought it'd be a good topic to touch on. I've just noticed this several times throughout my career. People want to move out to the country and they kind of overlook or don't think about the water and septic that, they lived in town and they've just paid the bill and it's kind of never been an issue for them. So why don't we start with septic systems? And, when you're looking at buying a house in the country, we'll use the Addendum B because then you can write in your well water, septic inspections to make it like a home inspection, part of the offer in case there's something wrong. Septic system, so the first kind is just a holding tank, kind of self-explanatory, just runs into a tank, and then when it fills up, your alarm goes off and you got to come get it pumped. A lot of people around here have conventional or mound systems, so a conventional, it'll fill up your tank and then it's just a gravity-fed drain field. This separates the solids and the grease from the water in your tank, and then the water runs out and just leaches into the soil.
Do you still need to empty that every now and then, though, too?
The county regulates how often you got to have it pumped. Usually it's every 3 years. Some counties are 2, but they will send you a letter and they make sure you pump it regularly.
Okay.
And
now, I would imagine that depending on where on how the property is, there are probably certain rules as to where you can put a mound system.
Yep, I don't know the details on that. Obviously, it's got to be so far away from your well, so far away from the highway or a road or your property line. I don't know what the specs are on that, but if you're looking to put one in, you got to get a perk test done anyway to see if your soil is suitable for a conventional system. Otherwise, you have to get the third type, which would be a mound system. So you got to have essentially you have like another tank that has a pump in it that will, once it gets to a certain level, it'll pump the water out uphill because you got to make a mound of acceptable soil. So if it's super heavy soil, like wetland, real heavy soil, or really sandy soil, it can go both ways. It can it can leach too fast, or it can not leach enough. So then you got to bring in a mound of acceptable soil, and then they run your drain field through that.
How expensive are these systems? I would assume that they cost probably a pretty penny. Is that why you want to have them inspected before you buy a place?
For sure, for sure. Since COVID, obviously these prices have increased for PVC and everything. So, that's why we try and encourage people to have the inspections done so that they don't buy a house and have an unexpected cost of your septic failing right away, and you don't want it to back up into your house. That would be no fun as well.
No.
So the last I heard, I think it was last year, I had asked and got just rough estimate prices. It's about $20,000 for a mound system and right around that $12,000 ballpark for a conventional system.
Okay. How do you get it inspected? Are there people that actually do that for a living? Is that like a part of the home inspection, or is it a whole different thing?
There are some home inspectors that know both and will do both, but most of the time you call a licensed plumber, so your home inspection will be separate. You got to call a plumber to do the well and septic inspection. So when you call a plumber, they'll want you to have the tank pumped so that they can see inside there. So you got to call a pumping company if the plumber doesn't do it. So you got to call them, get it pumped, and then they'll coordinate to come right then and see while it's pumped out to take a look inside. And what they want to look at is just make sure the baffles are in good shape, not cracked or broken. Just make sure the filter's clean and that there's nothing wrong with that, and just make sure your case walls aren't cracked and that everything looks good as far as I can tell. You're not going to clean it out completely, but just to pump that down, definitely want to make sure your baffles are in good shape because that kind of acts as your filter, just to make sure only water goes out of the system, because you don't want fat, grease, plastic. Sometimes if you use a lot of toilet paper, that can plug it up. Otherwise, kids have been known to flush things down the toilet.
Oh, yeah.
And if you get that in your drain field, that'll cause you problems as well. So it's just good to know that that stuff is all clean, and they will also check your drain field to make sure it's functioning properly. If you have ever been on a country property or familiar with them at all, they'll have vent tubes sticking out of the ground, and they'll take the caps off, take a look down inside, and you want to make sure there's no water at the end of it, because it's supposed to be all drained out by the time it gets to the end. So if you see water in the end, it's not, catastrophic. A lot of times, the septic systems are for smaller houses, and then people add on, those older country homes where they add on an addition so it's twice as big. Because when you get a septic system put in or designed, it's for so many bedrooms, and so a lot of times.
So if you add on, you need to increase the size of your septic system.
Yep, if it can't handle what you're doing, and it's not catastrophic thing like you have to put in a whole new system. A lot of times when that happens, you just gotta have it designed, and they'll add another run or two. So it's not like a full replacement. A lot of times they'll add on 1 or 2 runs and actually give you a valve so you can run it here for a little while, run it there for a little while. It's kind of nice to be able to switch them back and forth to give one drain field a break.
Now, with a conventional system that has to be pumped out, should you put that on a regular schedule, or do you just do that when the alarm goes off and says, "Hey, I need to be pumped"?
Oh, for just the holding tank in general. So just holding tanks, they typically come with alarms in them, so you don't have to look inside. And then once, I don't know the capacity, if it's 80-85% when they go off to give you warning, and then you call. They're usually pretty quick to get there and pump it, so it's not like it's a month-long wait.
Okay, let's talk about well water, because I'll be honest with you. Water here, you couldn't pay me enough money to drink the water here, and of course we don't worry about it because we have bottled water here. But if this were a home, they'd have to drill a definite well. I mean, they definitely would. Trust me, you don't want to drink the water here. How do you have a well inspected? And I mean, how do you know whether the home you're buying has a good well or it doesn't have a good well? And I would imagine that's part of the home inspection too.
Yep, that'll be part of your addendum B. There's a check for the septic inspection and then your well water and or well inspection. So some people, that's a first question a lot of people will ask is, how's the water? And, it can be irony, or, it can be, if it's a shallow well, if there's a lot of nitrates or contaminants in it. But iron is a big thing around here, and you can usually tell if they're staining on anything.
Right.
So if you just want to get the well water inspected, because nitrates are a big thing, especially if you're planning to have kids. If it's just an older couple, it's not as big a deal. But if you want to have kids, if you're pregnant or have small kids, you don't want a lot of nitrates in the water. So a lot of people will test for that. You can just test for that, or if you want to get the well inspected, like the well pump and the whole system, then you have to get a water test as well. So
And that's where a plumber comes in.
Yep.
I would guess a plumber is the person you'd need for that.
Yep, a plumber, he'll probably do everything the same day while he's there. So, because then they'll bring their truck and pull the well cap and pull your pump out. Just make sure your piping is good, going all the way down, that there's no holes. And they'll just examine your well pump to make sure it looks good and that it's functioning properly. And then they also go inside and check the pressure tank. I mean, they can only look down a well so far. So basically just examining the pipe and to make sure nothing's cracked and that it's working properly. Then they'll go inside, and your pressure tank is a big part of your system as well. It's not like city water where you have a water tower and you just open the tap and it comes out. You got a pressure tank that controls your pressure and your water flow. So a lot of times the diaphragms will leak on there. So that's one thing that comes up mostly. I mean, obviously your well pump is mostly it works or it doesn't. You're going to find a crack. If you don't have water pressure, it's going to be something in your pressure tank or your pipe leading up to the pressure tank.
Now, how often does a good well opposed to a bad well affect the sale of a property? Does that happen quite a bit, where people will look at a home and go, "Well, I really like this," but then they find out maybe the water isn't good? Is that a factor in their decision, maybe not to move forward?
It could be. Usually, you'll probably have an idea just by staining, or they have to disclose if they know there's something wrong with the water. So a lot of times you'll just negotiate either price and fix it later, or the seller will fix it before closing, is what happens most of the time. But if you see something you don't like, you can say exercise your contingency and say, I'm out, I want to find a different house with better water.
Just a couple of things to consider if you're thinking about moving out into the country. It's a little different than being inside the city with city water and city sewer. You've got a lot of other things that you need to consider.
Yep, and it's good. I should do this more as well, but there's a lot of people that will test regularly their water living in the country just to make sure that it's, because things can change, bacteria, nitrates can all change. So,
and if you do find bacteria and so forth in your water, I would imagine there's different solutions you can put in to shock it and get it back to where it should be.
Yep, if you do, because if you get your water tested, if you get your well inspected, then you have to pull the full-blown water test. So you got to test for nitrates and bacteria and arsenic. And a lot of people will add on lead, but those three you have to get. And bacteria is two different kinds. It's E. coli and coliform. So nitrates needs to be, I can't remember if it's less than 10 or 10 or less, but you want to be below that 10 mark to be considered safe. Otherwise, you can get a reverse osmosis process to get, or equipment to get in there to get that out of there. Otherwise, if bacteria are present, it's not as scary of a thing as people think. You just got to shock the well. So you got to pour some bleach down there, a few gallons of that, throw some chlorine pucks down there to kind of mix it up.
Sure.
And just let it sit for 48 hours and then pump it out until you can't smell chlorine anymore.
Kind of like taking care of a swimming pool, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah.
That's why, in city water, you can smell chlorine a little more than you can country water, because that's how you keep it clean and keep the bacteria out.
All right, well, there you go. That's all good information. And, especially if you're looking to buy in the country, just a couple of things you need to be aware of. You've got to make sure that septic system's good and the well's good.
Yep.
And I can see where that would make a big difference. Having that inspected before you close on a deal would be very important.
Yep. And the bacteria in the well, especially if it sits for a while, you see it quite often. It's just not good for plumbing to sit vacant and not be used, and especially your well. So, if a family member hasn't lived in a house for 3, 4, or 5 months, I would be pretty confident saying there's probably bacteria, but it's not a big thing. You just got to shock it. Sometimes you got to shock it 2 or 3 times, but bacteria is something you can get out of there.
All right. Let's talk about some listings. You've got the Cherrywood listings are still active over in Independence, although I think one of them closed, right?
Jackie has an accepted offer on her Cherrywood listing.
Excellent.
So I still have the other 4 on Cherrywood there, and we just reduced the price on them. So the 3 bedrooms are now down to $269,900, and then the 2 bedrooms are down to $264,900. So,
and I tell you, those are move-in ready. Those are
are
really beautiful properties.
Yep, they're built well. They're built to state and federal codes, and I know they have treated plywood under all entryways, and anywhere there's a sink or a bathtub, there's treated wood just to make sure that if something leaks ever, that the floor will stand up longer to it. Insulated outlets, steel roofs. So.
The other thing that's really cool about that property, it's so close to the school system. And that's, especially with school coming down the pike here before you know it, that's got to be a real selling point.
Yep, your kids can walk to school. They can walk to the park. You can walk to JoJo's. So it's a pretty nice location there. You're not on the highway, so they got a lot of room to roam there.
Walking to JoJo's. Now, that's a big selling point in my world. I got to tell you that, yeah. With me and ice cream, probably not a good thing, but I'd probably be over there every day. But no, that is a good selling point. And it's a great location. If you're not familiar, it's right off of the highway between Whitehall and Independence, right up kind of behind SS Peter and Paul Church up there. It's a beautiful place.
Yep, you'll see it right as you're coming in from Whitehall. It's on the right. You'll see the whole hillside development there.
Now you've got a new promotion with city lots. Tell me about this.
So the city has approved. We're not reducing the price of the lots. The lot prices are the same.
Is this in Independence?
Yep,
still?
the same division there with Cherrywood and then Aspen and Willow. They are, if you buy a lot, build a house, and live in it for 12 months, they will give you half the cost of the lot back.
Wow.
So
that's a big deal.
That is.
That's a lot of money right there.
Yep, and that makes a big difference, and you figure your numbers and everything. So
what are the lots running currently?
They're all differently priced, kind of based on square footage. So
Okay.
if you go online, you can see them all. Some of the smaller ones are down in the teens to up in the low 30s for the bigger lots. So.
Wow. And if you build your house, live in it for a year, you get half the cost of the lot back. That's a really good investment.
That really is. So I'm thinking we're going to see some movement on those lots now. So if you're interested, I wouldn't wait.
Yeah, definitely. And, lots are in high demand. I mean, if you drive through any of the little communities here in Trempealeau County, whether it be Whitehall or Blair or Arcadia, Independence, Oliva, you don't see a lot of vacant lots. You really don't. So anytime you've got a chance to buy a lot and build on it, that's a pretty good deal.
It is. It is a very good deal.
Land's at a premium. Speaking of land, you've got a really neat acreage out by Fountain City.
Yep. Yeah, Jack and I still have this 69-acre parcel just off the Fountain City Ridge for $558,900, so $558,900, all timber. It's all in MFL close, so you have lower taxes. There are trails throughout, and it's a Buffalo County property. There's probably almost 300 feet of elevation change from the top to the bottom, so it's a place where big bucks roam. And you have easement access off the highway, so it's not along the highway. You're kind of set off from it. So that's nice. And then Jamie and Jacob, I see, just listed Vino over to Valley, just a little ways down the highway there, Highway 95 on the Fountain City Ridge. So that is also available for $549,000 if anyone's interested in buying a business just down the road from their hunting land.
What a location that is, too. I'll tell you, if you've never been up there, well, if you have, but
Yep.
It's kind of halfway between Arcadia and Fountain City, right on the highway on top of the ridge.
Yep.
You've got Larry's Lookout on one side, and you've got Vino over the valley on the other. And it overlooks the valley. I think it comes with acres too, I believe, doesn't it? I think there's like 3 or 4
Yeah,
acres
I believe
there.
there's a few with it. I don't know the exact number, but there's a few. Just breathtaking views as well.
Oh, it is. And from a restaurant standpoint, if you're looking to be in the restaurant business, I would bet, knowing Larry Brenner, the owner, that it's a turnkey operation.
It is. It's immaculate, turnkey, ready to go. There's no corners cut there.
And he's done a great job with that place up there. And I tell you, you're right. It's a great location. And all the the walls actually open up so you can have outdoor dining and overlooking that valley. It is really something. And that's a turnkey price right there.
It is. And you're not going to be able to find a business like that with a location like that in very many places.
No, you're not. Absolutely. Check that out online because I'll tell you, if you're looking for a business, that is a beautiful location, and I've been in that building many times. It's a great place. It really is.
It is.
Somebody's going to walk into a real gold mine up there. Houses still at a premium?
Yep. Prices are holding strong. We don't have a lot of listings right now, so if someone's interested in getting their property listed or just want a price on it, give us a call. We'd be more than happy to take a look, but we got a lot of pre-qualified buyers and not a lot of houses listed. So,
well, there you go. Now you know. If you've got a place you want to list, give them a call. Give the pros a call over at hregroup.com.
Yep. Demand is high, supply is low. So.
All right. Well, if people want to contact you, Josh Baecker, what's the best way to do that?
My cell phone, you can call or text 715-533-4114, or you can visit our website, hregroup.com.
All righty. Josh, always good to see you. Great information today about septic systems and wells and a whole lot more. We enjoy talking real estate here at WHTL.
Well, we're glad to talk here with you guys, so it's a lot of fun.
Thank you, Josh. We'll see you probably in a few weeks. How's that?
Sounds good. Thanks, Mark. Good
Open
luck.
house
Good luck
here.
this weekend.
Yep, open house here on WHTL. Thank you, Josh Baecker, and make sure you check him out, hregroup.com. Hanson Real Estate. They can help you sell or buy any property.